Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode of Blooming Daily. I am so excited to have you join us again and to have you join us for this very, very special episode. If you don't know already, this month is Blooming Daily's anniversary month, and I am super excited because it's been one whole year.
Wow.
Unbelievable, really.
Definition of anniversary, yeah.
I know, because when we started Blooming Daily last year, it was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, where are we going to be in the next 6 months, 1 year? But here we are, 1 year after. So,
amen.
Progress is a wonderful thing.
Let's go. So thank you guys again for joining us. As you might have already been hearing some voices, I am here with two amazing guests. And oh my goodness, in fact, I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they're two amazing people. I am so glad, so glad that they are on the show today. Foje, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. Okay. Hello, audience. I am Foje Tendo. I am a junior at Bowdoin College, biochemistry, math double major, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. How about you, Paul?
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Wong. I am a junior here at Bowdoin as well. Good friends with both Ruth and Foje.
Yep.
And I'm a biology environmental studies double major.
Let's go. Super cool. Thank you guys so much. Okay, so one other question before we go on. What's your favorite healthy snack?
Has to be healthy.
Yes. I'm sorry, but it can only be healthy.
So what classifies as a snack? Can we have a mini debate about this? Like, can I have like rice on seaweed? Like,
I don't know.
is that a snack? I think it's a snack. Like, no.
Yes.
Like a rice cake with seaweed combo.
Maybe? Question mark.
What do you think, Paul?
Let's go with it. That sounds really tasty. I think my favorite healthy snack would be an apple. Like a good crisp apple.
Yes.
I could enjoy that.
Come on, Paul. That's too conventional.
I'm pretty vanilla.
Oh my gosh, that's funny because I tried an apple with peanut butter for the first time.
Oh no.
What?
Sorry, I'm an avid hater of peanut butter. This is one of my many flaws.
No, that's okay. I respect that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Was it good?
It was good. It was good. I read it online that it was a good combo, so I wanted to try it. So
Yeah.
There you go.
It's true.
The internet never lies.
I know, Foje, you have to try it.
Are you both fighting off doctors? All these apples.
Oh my gosh. So today we're going to be talking about how marking time and celebrating progress can impact our health. You know, in line with Blooming Daily's anniversary, we thought to look at what's the importance of even celebrating progress. Like, why don't we just like move on? Like, why do we have to stop and mark this time? And so I think the first thing to note is that many times when we talk about celebration, people usually think of like a big event and stuff like that. But that's not necessarily it, right? Celebration can be something very simple as just like acknowledging yourself or marking that moment in time. So I'm going to throw my first question and ask, like, is there any big celebration or even small moment in time you always like to mark, like you always like to note? Something like, oh, even if it's like a birthday, because that's a significant like passage of time, or oh, the end of classes. Are there certain things that you guys like to particularly celebrate?
I guess I'll take the first one. I think you're absolutely right, Ruth, that oftentimes when we think of celebration, maybe it's our, conventional society kind of takes us to think that it needs to be something big, something massive. But honestly, I think the most important types of celebrations are the ones you do consistently on a smaller scale, because
Yes.
I think they contribute the most to your overall just mentality and demeanor. And for me, one of the most important things or events to mark down is the end of a day,
Yes.
to really go back and introspect on feelings and I guess major developments throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone, I think I consider myself pretty introspective. And so really sitting down and letting all the thoughts fly in my head, using it as time to meditate and time to reflect on the person I've been and the person I want to be tomorrow. That's like, I think that's the most important part for me.
Wow, that's interesting because I wouldn't have personally thought of like marking the end of the day. but that's very significant.
Pretty big accomplishment
It's
to get to the end of the day, to get to your bed and be like, okay, I can sleep.
Yes, that is so good. Thank you. How about you, Paul?
I think for me, a big celebration of time comes after every like long stretch of school, and then you have a break. And I think just like oftentimes I'm like willing myself to get to that break, and I think that that break is just such a time for like seeing my family and a time of like reprieve.
Yes.
That I think I always try to celebrate. Oh, I got so much done, and I deserve to take some time off.
Yes.
I deserve to like lay on my couch and watch silly YouTube videos and play
Yeah.
with my dog. So I think those breaks are like really amazing times of marking time's passage and also acknowledging your hard work and how far you've come through a stretch of school.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
These are really good. And I think by giving ourselves opportunity to review progress, celebrations cause us to linger on the positive. I think that it's very important to mark the good and positive things that happen in our lives, because sometimes we can be very overwhelmed with the things going on in the world or the things not going on well for us. Like, oh my gosh, this didn't work out. Oh my gosh, that didn't work out. But when we look at the things that have been working out or the things that we've been working on for a long time that are progressing, that can do really well for us. And interesting, because a number of studies have found that this approach to life brings significant benefits like improved physical health and mental health. So it makes a lot of sense, right? When you're like dwelling on the positive, your brain is looking on the brighter side, right? Rather than being stressed and anxious about other things. And so, yeah, celebrations are very important because they help us look at the brighter side and they help us mark things that are significant. And that is very relative, right? Significance can be big or small in our lives. So we are going to go to our first sub points on when should we celebrate progress. So I'd like to hear both of you, when do you think is the ideal time to celebrate progress when you're doing something? Paul, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think, we don't always have to just celebrate progress too. I feel like sometimes I just choose to celebrate hard work.
Yes.
Or celebrate effort, because in some ways I feel like putting in effort into something and maybe not achieving the desired outcome is in itself progress. I think of a lot of exams that I take that I do really poorly on. Sometimes I'm really proud of my effort.
Yeah.
And that I worked my ass off. I exhausted all the resources I could. And in some ways I'm proud of myself, even though I might not initially acknowledge that as progress. I think that it's easy to find things to be proud of, even in traditionally what I perceive of as defeating moments.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Paul. And kind of going back to the premise of the point as well, I think that oftentimes those studies that are taking place and try to identify different elements of people's health and how different perspectives can affect their health, they oftentimes come down to having an internal locus of control, or just the idea that if you feel like you are in control of your life, you generally tend to be happier. And I think that the really interesting thing about celebration is that you choose to celebrate. And you choose when to celebrate. You don't choose when disaster or tragedy happens. Oftentimes you don't choose it. And so I don't really, linking that back to my point, I don't really think there is an ideal time, or maybe in the sense that there isn't a time that works well for every situation. But maybe I took the gander that the ideal time to celebrate is when you need to. You should celebrate both when you need to and when you want to, because sometimes you do need a celebration, whether it's to lift you up or to continue or to keep in line with your consistency and what you're trying to accomplish. But sometimes if you want to celebrate, you should, because celebration shouldn't be linked to some aspect of tragedy or it's good that they are, but you shouldn't just celebrate when you need to. You should both do it when you need to and when you want to. So in essence, you should be celebrating all the time. This is what I'm advocating.
Celebrating all the time. That's really interesting, because I was wondering, can you celebrate at the wrong times? What do you guys think? Are there moments you're like, nah, and coming back to the definition of celebration again, sometimes we think of big things, but are there times you're like, you know what, I'm going to go a little bit further before I acknowledge this? Are there times like that?
Yeah, well, I think that, celebration itself is like a special moment. So if you celebrate opportunities where maybe, going back to what I was saying earlier, where you don't like put a lot of effort into something, then you would lose the like ability to self-validate yourself through celebration when you actually do put a lot of effort into it. So I think it is like, although you should constantly try to celebrate yourself, you shouldn't try to celebrate like bad behavior or something you're not proud of, because then potentially that would dilute the value of celebrating the good moments. Because I think that celebration itself is like an important moment to self-validate. So it potentially could be toxic to validate bad behavior and continue that going forward.
Yes.
No, that's an really great, not necessarily counterpoint, but really great like nuance point to the whole question. And I think that, again, we talked about celebrating on different scales. I think we all celebrate to a certain extent. Like, even just a professor asked you a question that like really caught you off guard, and you managed to give a good response, and so you kind of like, oh yes, I was able to understand the question and give a great response, and that's like a minor celebration. I think we all do it every day, and it doesn't even register in our heads. It's like something that's worthy of like celebration, but we do it. Yes. But then there's like larger celebration, like what Paul mentioned, really studying your butt off and overcoming a major exam, and that calls for massive celebration. And so I think you can never really celebrate, I'd say, too early, but there are different scales of celebration that we do throughout our day. So
let's say you have this anniversary coming up. Oh, wait, Bloom Lady has an anniversary coming up. Oh. And you're wondering, or like people listening are wondering, okay, how are the ways I can celebrate progress? I want to hear how you guys celebrate progress in ways that might be particular to you. And I would love to hear like two things. Celebration on a bigger scale and celebration that is very small, but that is meaningful to you. So I'd like to hear both of you.
I think both aspects of my celebration may include some form of friendship. I think that friendship is one of the most important things that we as human beings, as social creatures, have as a way, an outlet for both. I want to say, I can't even put my finger on it. Friends are just amazing. And so on a larger scale, I'd say interacting with friends in a big planned manner, and I think that depending on the type of person you are, I know for me, planning things that eventually lead to multiple people together is something that's makes me really, really happy.
Yes.
And it's a great way to, I don't know, really see the culmination of your social circle together. Mm-hmm. And then there's like the smallest scale celebrations, which is just deciding to do something with, a smaller group of people. And just, let's go have dinner, the Bowden, like, let's grab, whether it's a meal, let's grab a meal. Let's grab a meal with one person, grab a meal with two people, and just something small scale.
Yeah. And I'm going to quickly jump off that and ask, how do you know what skill to do for like a particular event or what time? Like, how do you know when you're supposed to
involve me personally?
Your friends, or like when you're just going to like take this in yourself?
Yeah, honestly, I think it depends on how I'm feeling that particular day. I've been known to do larger scale celebrations for things that people wouldn't conventionally think deserves it. But yeah, I think it's more of a gut feeling, and it's really maybe what you want at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Paul?
I think for me, something I try to do is to have some sort of activity that I love to mark the occasion as like a special one, so that I can associate my accomplishment of that. For example, your 1 year anniversary of Blooming Daily with like something that I love. So I love like going fishing, or like especially doing it with my brother. So I'd probably like try to plan a fishing trip as a reward to celebrate that. And so that whenever I look back on this memory, I can associate it with like, oh, my hard work culminated in this really awesome fishing trip with my brother. And so I think things like that, like connecting, kind of what Foje was saying, connecting activities that you love with accomplishments, and that association will help you like connect a really positive moment with a major accomplishment and a lot of effort that you put into something.
Yes. And okay, so I have a fun question. Do you guys ever treat yourself to anything when celebrating? I know there are people who like to like buy certain things. Yeah, I was wondering like if you're one of those people.
If I'm one of those people. Wow, those people, Ruth. Interesting.
No.
No, I won't call you out on air, of course. But I think that it's really, that's so interesting. No, I'm not. I think one of the things that I typically do is just, I don't know, something really basic, just like a good YouTube video. Sometimes you save a good YouTube video for yourself to just sit down and watch and just enjoy, and just like be happy. Or it's a show that maybe it's like your guilty pleasure. Maybe it's a bad show, but it's good entertainment. You know, those shows are like, this is objectively bad writing, but it's really helping me get through the day.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something similar, Paul, about YouTube at the beginning, and I was like, yes, I'm also a big YouTube person.
Yeah, I think that maybe slightly different than Foje. I'm like a very proud consumer. So when I do like accomplish something, I like to buy things. And so not only buy things, but also like treat myself and splurge on like a fishing trip or buy like a new fishing rod or something like that. So I think that sometimes it is really nice that you engage in an activity that you normally will like refrain from. And I think that that in some ways is like validation for hard work, that you get to treat yourself to something that you really want because you put in a lot of sacrifice and effort in accomplishing that.
Yes. And I think the concept of gifting ourselves is something probably not as popular as gifting others. And I was thinking about this, I think, last month because I was in a wellness painting session and all of that. And I was like, oh, I think I want to gift myself this like painting set. But I haven't yet. I still should. But I was like, it's so interesting that we don't really think of like, oh, I want to buy this for myself. I want to give this to myself on my birthday. We're either like giving out to people or expecting to be given. So I think that's really interesting. It's something I've been reflecting on. And I was wondering if there was one major thing you would gift yourself for an accomplishment that you're very proud of. What would it be?
Can peace of mind be a gift?
Can you give yourself that?
I think you can gift yourself peace of mind. At least I hope so. But sorry, on a more physical basis, I'd probably gift myself at the beginning of a new semester. I really love to have like really nice school utensils. This is just me being like a mega nerd, but something about having a nice backpack with like really nice binders that all have like folders in them, and then having just a really, I like to be really clean and like start the semester off with just like a nice pencil case and sharpener. No asking random people in class for pencils. I can't live that life again. Just like having nice, school stuff.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. Really, I think this is a really amazing question because I think we also like always choose to care for others instead of caring for ourselves. And I think that is like a similar parallel for gifting other people rather than gifting ourselves. And I think me personally, I have some like lofty goals that I want to accomplish by the end of the semester. And I've promised myself if I do accomplish those things, I'm going to buy myself a really nice watch.
That's a good one.
Yeah, when I graduated high school, I bought myself a watch and it made me really, really happy because I think a watch in itself is kind of like a good memorandum of time in that like it itself is like capturing time as time goes by.
That's pretty
so I think having that, I know. So I think that having a really nice watch would be like a true like meta celebration of the passage of time and the accomplishment of things over the passage of time. So if you catch me next year while wearing a really nice watch, then you'll know I've accomplished my goals.
Oh, that's really, really, really sweet. So to our listeners, this is your call to get yourself something. I know that sometimes we don't really think of it, but that's really important. Give to yourself that like paint set, like I wanted to buy, I haven't, but I will get to that.
You should get you a good book.
Yes,
or a watch.
Yes, oh my gosh, or a watch. I also love watches, so I probably should gift myself a watch too. Or send yourself flowers. I mean, we are always like receiving flowers from people, but like maybe sometimes we should give ourselves our flowers, and be like, I know how much work I put into this rehearsal and stuff like that, and so I'm going to get myself a flower because
Doesn't Miley Cyrus say that? Like, you should buy yourself flowers? Really? It's her new song.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I Can Buy Myself Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
Oh wow, can you see? Okay, so
Perfect
amazing.
timing.
Get yourself some peace of mind while you're getting yourself flowers.
Yes, flowers and
Yeah.
peace of mind. Oh my gosh, yes. So, or like treat yourself to like a really good book, a really good novel. I know some people who are very big on novels. Maybe buy that novel that you've been wanting to buy and be like, from me to me. So I feel like, yes, that would be a really good one. So please do this. I know that we can overlook this, but please do it. Don't say because it's a gift for yourself, then you can overlook it. I think it's just as important as gifting others. And so our final heading will be how to get in the habit of celebrating progress or marking time, significant times. Because not everyone is in the habit of doing that, and we recognize that. But like some people might also be wondering, okay, so how do I start this and how do I get into the habit of doing so? So I was wondering if you were advising Paul, who like for instance doesn't
Paul.
celebrate progress, what would you tell him as a way to get into this habit?
I'd be really hypocritical if I didn't acknowledge that it is hard to acknowledge celebrating yourself consistently, especially when it's not really something that's, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily too mainstream. It's really more celebrating other people and larger occasions. But I think one of the biggest contributors to a lack of celebration, and maybe I'll link that into the idea of gratitude, is a lot of people are really focused on major checkpoints in life rather than the journey. And I think a lot of people are really focused on goals. Obviously, we want to have goals and we want to have plans to get us to those goals, but we can't look at life as a checklist, and we can't only celebrate the things that are maybe the monumentous occasions of each plan. We need to celebrate the plan itself. And I think once you get more in the habit of celebrating the plan itself, celebrating each day, then it becomes a bit more natural. Acknowledging each day and its purpose towards achieving a particular goal in and of itself is, I think a part of celebration. So yeah, I think a perspective change is in order, and a good way to change that perspective is just taking time each day, whether it's meditating or doing something else, just really taking time to acknowledge that each day matters.
Yes. Wow. And I'm really glad you mentioned gratitude, because we're going to talk about that before we close up. How about you, Paul? What if you were advising Foje who like, for instance, doesn't celebrate like progress, or who is finding it difficult and trying to get into the habit of celebrating progress? What would you tell him?
Maybe because friendship matters so much to Foji, finding a friend to keep him accountable and to celebrate him as well. Like, I think there is a lot of value in like internalizing celebration, but also maybe just to start and to kick off the ball. Then you could get a really good friend and you could celebrate each other. And then not only celebrate each other, but also celebrate yourselves in that. So I think maybe starting with a really good friend could be a good start of celebrating yourself.
Friendship is magic, as My Little Pony once said.
Yes,
Amen.
no, that is really true. Real friendships can get us through a lot. And real friendships can even keep us accountable, right?
Very
So some things on my list are be intentional about doing so we can forget. But let's say be intentional about saying that once I finish finals, I'm going to really celebrate the hard work I put into studying. So be intentional about doing so. Because I think that the things we're not intentional about won't get done, So like be intentional about that. And then keep records of your progress. Like write them down. Like sometimes so much has happened, but we don't realize because we weren't keeping track somewhere. And that's why we spoke about, like on previous episodes, when we spoke about maintaining or starting up good habits or new beginnings and all of that, always having a list where you're like, okay, today, let's say I exercised today and yesterday I did the same thing, the day before I did the same thing. Seeing that track record can really be helpful, especially visually, right? So like marking it on the calendar and all of that can be really helpful. And then just like Paul said, like having friends to keep you accountable, or like involving your friends can be really, really helpful, because then they can tell you, oh my gosh, you did this, you did that. That's really significant and worth celebrating. And then before we wrap up, I want us to talk about gratitude, because I think that's really important. And gratitude can do so much for us, or help us realize so much that we might be overlooking. And so gratitude, when we think of gratitude, what comes to your mind? Or like, what are the things that you say, oh, I'm the most, I mean, maybe not I'm the most grateful for, because there are a lot of things that could come to your mind, but like things that you're really grateful for. But do you want to go first?
Yeah, I like my brother is mentally disabled, so I think one thing that I am always really grateful for is just like a clear head and an ability to accomplish things that I put my mind to. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one thing that I often am really grateful for. Just like knowing that I'm capable of accomplishing things and that I, have the capabilities to do all these things. I think that that's something that I take for granted often, both like physical and mental disabilities, and just honestly a lot of pride for my brother and also for other people who are overcoming disabilities, to, their ability to like function properly and to accomplish great things too.
Yes.
I guess I'm really grateful for just the journey to higher education and the hopeful continuance in higher education. I think a lot of times when you aren't necessarily from a particular upbringing or a family structure that is deeply embedded in higher education, it can be really daunting to pursue it, and even more daunting so to excel in it. And I think that not only have I, continued in higher education, I think I'm doing pretty well for myself, and I just grateful for the friends and the people who continue to support me in higher education. And it's amazing, like being at college and the resources and the people you meet, like you amazing too in this booth right now. It truly is both a privilege and an opportunity to be in higher education. So it's something to be grateful for.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I think you both made really good points. The reality is that many times we might forget to be grateful about many things. And then sometimes our minds can be overwhelmed or clouded by the other not so positive things. But it's really important that we take time to like reflect and acknowledge. And so my last question would be, what's one way that you think that we can increase our gratitude meter, in quotes? Like, what's one way like we can do that, or one way you're choosing to increase your gratitude meter this coming week or this coming month?
So I'm not sure if either of you two play video games at all, but it's a common it's a common thing in video games where when you start a game, you just like spend a lot of money to get all the cards and all the resources. And so you can't just spend a lot of money to get gratitude. Gratitude, I don't think, is something you can buy. But I think that you could probably increase your gratitude meter probably in the same way as celebration meter. You could do it both internally and externally by taking time to spend time with yourself and with your friends. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing, just kind of relating to our earlier conversation, is if you expand your perspective, like I think even just speaking with Foje, hearing what he has to say about how grateful he is for higher education, I think that's something I often take for granted. Like, it just seemed like a natural progression in my life path. But in very, very many ways, like exposing myself to new perspectives, like what Foje just said, helps remind me of how unique our opportunities are and how we shouldn't really take them for granted. So I think in some ways, engaging with friends and like hearing new perspectives helps us to like illuminate how like new avenues for gratitude.
Yes.
Kind of going back on that, isn't it sometimes crazy to think that like there's this dichotomy in perspective? Sometimes something becomes so much more pronounced because something else is absent, or how that complements each other. It's really just like something amazing of like the human experience. And sometimes we need the lack of something to appreciate the presence of something.
Yes. Mic drop. Mic drop. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much, Paul and Foje, for coming on the show. Let's go.
Thanks for having us, Ruth.
Thank you,
for
Ruth.
your amazing perspectives. I really enjoyed this time together, and hope that you can go back and keep on finding things you're grateful for and keep on celebrating the accomplishment.
I'll be finding my sleep.
Yes, definitely. That's very important. And then like this, being on the show, it's definitely something worth celebrating. Again, it's Blooming Daily's anniversary month, and we're so excited. Thank you all for joining with us this past 1 year. Wow. Excited to see what lies ahead in the months and years ahead. We hope that you guys have a great time and that you can take our time to celebrate yourself, gift yourself things, and just be proud of how far you've come. Don't forget to share it to those you think might find this useful, and send us your comments on any of our social media pages. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.